Good morning and welcome to a second chance. My name is Phil Jones.
And my name is Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach stage people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. If you or you know someone who has kidney disease and needs to be coached, reach out to us at kidneycarecoaches.com.
Today we have a very interesting show. Again, excuse my voice. I'm still getting over this nonsense I'm dealing with over
You do
here.
sound better though.
I appreciate that. I'm glad I sound better. I don't want to sound like The Walking Dead on the show. So you'll hear me, kind of clear my throat, but I'll probably
Hey, would
be
you want me to go ahead and do it since why don't you just let me do it? Because
all right. I'll start off and you can go ahead and finish it off. Um, Today we're gonna read this real short article that's titled "One of the World's Longest Surviving Transplant Patients Celebrates 50 Years with Donated Kidney." This just came out 2 days ago, January 24th, 2022. Um, and it says one of the world's longest surviving transplant patients has defied the odds to celebrate 50 years with his new kidney. Grandfather to Dave Harvey was just 21 and a bass player in a rock band when he started to become very ill. Diagnosed with a genetic kidney disease, he faced life on dialysis. But just a few months later, on December 26, 1971, he was offered a kidney transplant. The rocker became the first person to have the then groundbreaking operation at Barts Hospital in London. It was expected the organ, which came from the victim of a car crash, would last him only 10 years, but 5 decades later, it's still going strong.
man, if that is not incredible, I mean, all of us inspired to be like Dave. You know what I'm saying? To keep your kidney 50 years strong and going strong. Not so the man is thriving. That's when I hear going strong, that means he's not. I've had a kidney where it's fluctuating, and I don't know. Going back and forth to the hospital. We know those situations, but this man is thriving 50 years later. And we always talk about the doctors always expect the kidney to last 10 years. Anything you get above 10 years is a true blessing. So that's amazing, man. Would you like me to continue? I know your voice is not the strongest right now.
Yeah, go ahead, real quick, Ms. Cook. I'll chime in a second.
Okay. The semi-retired stock auditor from Gwyneth, Kent said, "I feel so great. It was really a gift of life. 50 years is absolutely remarkable, even by today's standards, and it is by today's standards. That's huge. Last year, I knew one. Last year, I knew of a woman who had transplanted kidney at the same age. I'm very lucky. Dave was playing bass guitar in a band called Iron Maiden 3 years before the famous band of the same name formed and was enjoying the life before he got ill. He started to suffer with extreme fatigue and severely swollen ankles and was diagnosed with Allport syndrome. I'm familiar with that. The rare genetic disorder is characterized by progressive kidney disease and abnormalities of the inner ear and inner and eye. So that means when I've seen this disease affect people's eyesight and their inner ear, where they might have a lot of ringing, or you might lose a little bit of hearing in that ear. Also, I've heard of this disease. So yeah, he started dialysis and said the treatments were hard to cope with. Keep on going. Well, when I had the diagnosis, I was living the high life and was having great time. So to find out I had a kidney disease was like having the rug pulled from under my feet, he said. Before my transplant, I was at home for 3 months at my parents' place having dialysis. Yeah, that can be challenging. It was awful. I hated dialysis. Cleaning the machine, going through that. I don't know how people cope with being on dialysis for a long time. He probably hated it so much that's why he said, I'm keeping this kidney forever because I'm not
Right,
doing
exactly. I'm not gonna let nothing happen to this. Just forget this
right.
dialysis nonsense.
Right. He was like, I'm not having that. The family, it says the family had enjoyed Christmas Day, then on Boxing Day, a call game. I'm not familiar with that. Then on Boxing Day, a call came there and had been a there had been a road accident and there was a kidney waiting for Dave. He now has three kidneys because the new one was popped in on the left side of his tummy and his own left kidney in there and her own kidneys left in as they were causing any harm. So that's what I want people to know that. So when I got my kidney transplant, my native kidneys weren't causing any harm, so they left the kidneys in. So they just unhook them, leave them in, and they atrophy. That's what I want people to know. A lot of times, people, when I explain, show them my scar and where it's at, they look at me weird because they think, they put the kidney in right where the kidneys go. But honestly, it's a little too difficult to get back there where the native kidneys are because they're protected by the rib cage. And to go in there and do all that to get a kidney in, that's extremely difficult because you have to move the liver, you might have to mess with the spleen. It's a
Right.
lot of things that they have to deal with, and your intestines and everything. So they just take them when you get your first kidney. They put it on the left hand side. Was yours on the left hand side when you first got your transplant?
Mine was on the right.
Real. Okay,
Yeah,
mine was on
mine
the
they
right
put
too.
mine on
That's
the
right.
right.
My fault. Yeah, it was on the right. You're right.
Hmm.
And they said he
Well,
said
I
on
mean,
the left.
I think they do. I think they do put it on both. I think it just depends on your makeup of your body
Yeah,
on the inside. Because not everybody is 100% the same. Some people got have this in this area and that and this. Some people have that thing where the whole thing on the inside is flipped the opposite way around. So, yeah, I think it just depends on how their makeup is on the inside of them, which will determine where they place it. I think it also depends on if they've had prior surgeries, scar tissue, things of that nature like that. Like for me, uh, they might still be able to put the one that I'm supposed to get on the right side again because my dialysis catheter is always been on the left side. So they probably because that scar tissue is on this side as opposed to being on the side where they put the first one at. It'll probably be okay to go there. And they'll probably clean some of that scar tissue out of there or whatever in the process also. So let me ask you
mhm.
this question. Are we talking about that? Um, and we can get back to the article in a second. Um, was your second transplant longer than your first one? Not in survival. I'm talking about the operation itself.
Yes, mine was a lot longer, and they put and I want to be correct here. My second transplant, they left all three kidneys in. So technically, I got four in, but only one working.
Mm,
And they put the other one on the left hand side, and they put it on the left hand side. What they did, I don't know if I told you this, man, but I was on the gurney I was on the surgical table for another close to four, excuse me, 4.5 hours because they couldn't find my bladder because my
mm,
bladder had atrophied so small because I didn't urinate for
right.
over 10 years. So the
Uh,
bladder wasn't getting work. And the doctor comes in and tells me after the surgery, he goes, "Man, I'm looking everywhere for your bladder and I can't find it at all." So we're like so puzzled, like what we're going to do. Well, how are we going to stitch this in? He says, I go over it 3 or 4 times. I'll keep on looking. And I see this little tiny thing that looked like a walnut. And he's going, I know that's not his bladder. I know that's just not the bladder. Eventually, he looks and goes, yes, that is the bladder. He said it atrophied so small. So they had to put a stent in, had to put a stent in. And
huh.
I had to have that stent in for like a month and a half afterwards.
Oh, you had yours in longer than I had mine in because I think they took mine out like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, they had mine in for a long time because what they said was they had to even and I had to go back and get a couple of x-rays and things like that so they could look at it and see how it was going because
Mm,
the bladder was so small and the bladder hadn't had any urine in it for a long time. So they
right.
didn't know how it was going to be. So I
Mm,
will never forget when I when they took the catheter out, I had a catheter in for a long time too, like a month and a half, because they had to let it heal. And I remember going to you go to the restroom a lot when you get a kidney. But man, I was
Uh,
going every 10 minutes. And that's because my bladder was so small. And so eventually it got bigger. Eventually everything slowed
right.
down. But dude, every 10 minutes, I was like, God, I mean, even going when I would go to bed, I would just have to get up, like boom, boom, lay back down, get back up, go lay back down. I was kind of happy to have the bag on me because
Well,
when I had the bag, it would, you didn't know you was, urinating.
right. It just
It just,
happened.
it just happened. But once they took it out, dude, I was going to the running. If I would go somewhere, I would have to look around like where the bathrooms because
Right. Let me find out where this is now before I get in there. Find out
what's
if I may
crazy
not even
is
want to be in here. I might want to stay in the car.
right. What's crazy is again when you get a kidney, you're peeing a lot because they want you to
Mm-hmm.
drink so much water. So I was getting a gallon of water in. I have a new kidney that's excited. So when you get that first kidney, it's excited. When you first put it in the body, it's excited. It wants to
Right.
do what it's going to do. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to feed it a lot of water or it will dehydrate and you can go into rejection immediately. So I mean, it was like a double whammy. I had this small bladder, a gallon of water, and a super, super active kidney. So it was like I would time it 8 to 10 minutes, and I'm going to the restroom. 8 to 10 minutes, every 8 to 10 minutes, and it was like that for a while until the bladder got bigger and it slowed down.
It's funny that you bring up the catheter thing, right? Because I think I've had this. I think I told you this before. Um, they didn't go over that with me for my transplant, right? Like, normally they go through everything. This is what's gonna happen when you wake up. It'll be like this. They went through everything else but the part where they tell me I'm gonna have a catheter in.
You gonna wake
So
up
I
with what?
remember,
They tell you was gonna wake up with what?
yeah, they didn't tell me I was gonna wake up with a catheter in, right? So I'm like, I remember, I knew I was gonna have to go to the bathroom when I woke up. I knew this, right? And I remember I woke up and I had to go, and I'm like, hey, nurse, hit the button. And she's like, yes, I'm gonna help you. I'm like, I need to go to the restroom. Can you help me get to the restroom, please? And she's like, go to the bathroom. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you have a catheter in. And I'm like, oh, what? All I could think about, bro, it wasn't even so much of having the catheter. The problem for me was what's gonna happen when we gotta take this out. Like, bruh, like, do you not listen? I hate for doctors and nurses to hurt me, right? Because then I start thinking like maybe they enjoyed hurting me. I'm retarded like that. And so 9 times out of 10, I ask to do stuff myself because if you can do it yourself, it's not gonna hurt as much. Because you can do what you got to do to get. Man, that goddamn thing wasn't budget. Obviously, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing trying to take it out,
Right.
right? And I think I took about 10 minutes trying to take that thing out. And the doctor looked at me and said, you want me to do it? And I was like, yeah, go ahead and do it. He's like, all right. He's like, take a deep breath.
Yeah. Deep
He's
breath.
like, take a deep breath. He said, if you take a deep breath and just blow out all the air at the same time I'm pulling, you'll be
Yeah.
okay. Was not a lie. I will
Yeah.
definitely say that it was not a lie. The pain came after.
When you
Uh,
got to urinate, man,
right.
it
That's
felt
what
like razors, man. I'm telling you, it's
exactly. During it, when he took it out, it was fine. It was whoop, and go on about your day. But after, when I had to go to the bathroom, I even had second guesses for a minute. I was like, do I really want to do this? Like, because I know it's getting ready to hurt. I know it's gonna be. I'm a panic because it's probably gonna be some blood that come out with it.
oh,
I
it's that
I am
too.
about to probably piss 20 times more than I was supposed to because I'm gonna be so scared. And as soon as it started, and you hit that water, I was like, what the fuck? That shit hurt so bad, bro.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
was like, man. And that was like one things that made me say in my mind, I need to keep this kidney forever because I can't go through this again.
That's
Like that's
crazy.
one thing I don't that and then the removal of the stent. I
Yeah.
don't I that I
Both of
mean,
them are challenging. We got to
Yeah,
talk one day about our we let's just call it our kidney stories, I guess, because we can talk about these and other people who have transplants and went through dialysis and things like that can relate. But I'm gonna get back to Dave's story right here.
yeah.
Dave had a plastic tent around his bed, and staff came and went wearing full PPE to prevent infection while he was in recovery. Healthy Dave still goes to the gym 3 times a week and holds up to 4 times a year. And week and holidays up to 4 times a year. I don't know what that means. It has not been all plain sailing. He recovered from hepatitis C 10 years ago and had a triple heart bypass just 3 years ago. That the transplant enabled him to meet and marry his soulmate, Anna, who died at age 62 8 years ago, and they have 2 children. Wow, man. Okay. Dave said, I'm very lucky. I was apprehensive because of the surgery was so new, but I trusted everybody. We had a good relationship. It was the answer to getting off the kidney machine, and I felt optimistic. Afterwards, I just felt such a relief and gratitude. I hear that. I wanted to meet the person's family, but they don't allow you to. I want to show them how grateful I am, and that's their son's tragic loss wasn't completely in vain. Britt Angela Dunn is thought to be the longest surviving transplant patient in the world, still leading a healthy life with the same kidney. She had her operation on July 25th, 1970 at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge. Wow, man, that's an amazing story. Some of these people, and what's crazy about that is I know I have a friend whose mom, if I'm not mistaken, she's like in her. I know she's had it over 45 years her transplant. So these transplants do last on some people if you take care of them and do the right things. And it definitely sounds like Dave is doing the right things to keep his transplant going strong. We commend Dave for that, man. Hats off to you, Dave.
I commend anyone that still has the transplant. Especially with that long amount of time. 10, 15, 20, 25 years. The transplant games honor those quarter century people every 2 years at the games, 25 plus years. And I know a number of them, most of them through Facebook, some of them personally. But to be able to talk to these people is one of the things that keep me going.
Yeah.
Keep fighting. To see them, you know, and the other thing is not so much how long that they've kept their transplant. It's the fact that most of these people are late 40s, late 50s, late 60s, and they just going and they go. They walking, they running, they swimming. Badminton, pickleball,
If you
darts.
notice the ones who do keep these kidneys, it seems like, and I'm not saying everybody, but it seems like the majority have kept themselves occupied doing something physical. uh, walking. They have a good social life with their friends. They're just outgoing people. It sounds like the ones that are, and their energy is really really good. And man, sometimes we hear what I hear usually is somebody who's got the kidney from a relative that stays long. But Dave, he beats the odds to the fullest because the gentleman who gave him a kidney was in a car accident. So
Right.
that means he was a cadaver, if you will, and he gave him a kidney, and he's off and running. And staying strong after 50 years, that's my goal. Shoot.
Yeah. Then we, talking about time. I do want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, Sarah Castro. She just celebrated 31 years post heart transplant. She got her heart at 6 weeks old at Loma Linda, and she just celebrated over 30 years with
That's
that
awesome.
heart. But she's also a kidney transplant recipient. Uh,
Wow. Isn't that
also,
something? Isn't that something right there? And then sometimes what we hear, like people, I want people to understand this. Anytime the kidneys get affected, the heart and lungs can get affected also, and vice versa. The lungs, kidneys, heart, they all have like a triangle where they can all coexist. When something goes wrong, these two can have challenges as well. So just like you said, I've seen people have heart transplants, and then the kidneys go out, where then all of a sudden they got a kidney transplant. Just like the guy who built my website, Curtis, he's a double lung transplant recipient. Now he
Mhm.
needs a kidney.
Right.
So we
Hmm.
do hear about these things like that, and it's, I won't say often, but I won't say common neither, but we do hear
Yeah, and the thing about Sarah's story with her kidney is she didn't have to go on dialysis, right? She found
about it.
out, pretty
Fast
early.
tracker.
Well, no, this is what happened. So, um, we went to the games in 2018, right? And so that's when I found out was in 2018. We were getting ready for the games. And at this time, you have those meetings with the teams, and you meeting people. You come to pick up your bags and your stuff that you take with your team stuff on and all that stuff. So we were doing those things, and so she brought her uncle uh and her cousins and his wife with him and stuff like that because they were going to the games. They were going to the games with us uh in 18, which was in Utah, and and her little cousin Lucas was like, I mean, that little kid he was that kid. Sometimes you go, man, that kid needs to sit down. But it wasn't that kid. He was active, but he knew the level he can keep it at to where it wasn't like annoying, irritating, right? He was a real playful dude, but you love to play with him. You got those kids, you don't mind playing with them, because
Right.
they're not, it's not, the level is not so high that it's low key disrespectful because you're like, man, just go sit down, you and so
I
me
was
and him,
that kid. I was that kid that was disrespectful because I was that kid that somebody would be like, "All right, go on, man, because you just too you a
too wild for
knucklehead."
me, right? But so me and him, came cool. When we was in Utah, we all stayed in the same hotel, and for some reason that week I couldn't sleep, so I always ended up in the lobby at like
I
one or
remember you
two
telling
o'clock
me
in the
about that.
morning.
I remember you telling me about that.
And every morning at that time, him and his dad and his little, because they were trying to put his little sister to sleep, and they come down the elevator, and we playing in the lobby and stuff like that, and the people didn't care, wasn't nobody there, wasn't nobody, like it was like regular day people, back and forth, right? So we bonded that way and everything, and come March of 2019, um his birthday was March 1st 4th. And I remember I got a call the next day, and she was like, "Hey, did you see the poster that I posted about Lucas?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just commented on it because I didn't comment on it until the next day." And that's when she called me, like literally like minutes after I commented on it, right? And then I don't know if I realized it or she like realized that I didn't understand exactly what she was asking me. And so I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you referring to? And then that's when she had told me that he had passed away. Uh, but the kicker to this is, so they said yes to him being an organ donor, right? Saved a number of lives. As a 4-year old, like I said, birthday was the day before. Um, he was actually able to give his cousin one of his kidneys. She ended up being a match for him. I remember I was talking to her like the whole day. She's like, I'm sitting in the waiting room and waiting to do this and do that. And I'm like, man, you got me feeling like I'm the one that's sitting there right now and calling me every 3 seconds. But what what gets me every time I tell this story, and it's, not for myself, it's more because of the relationship between the two of them, and they had a great one. Is that just in that short time? That's why I try to tell people, don't just write people off just because of the first way that you met somebody. Granted, that first impression is important, um, but I'd only known this part of their family for maybe just over a year. Yeah, because we had gotten back to January, hadn't known them for that long, and when she called me, she was calling me to ask me to go to the hospital to go get tested for his other one. So, you know, and this is why, like, a lot of times when we touch on like how you treat nurses and stuff like that, and doctors, I'm always saying respect them, because you never know with the situation that you're in. You might mess around and meet that nurse. I mean, we've us as patients for the past almost 30 years have heard a number of stories where they were just like, I was just having this conversation with this person at the bus stop, or blah 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 blah, and they just decided to give me a kidney or whatever. All it takes, one thing I've realized is that it takes more for you to be mean to someone than for you to be nice to someone. It takes a whole lot of energy for you to keep that consistent angerness with someone. Like,
Hurt people hurt people. So, you're right about that, Phil. You're exactly right. And another thing, I totally agree with you because you never know where your blessing can come from. One of my prayers is always, you know, be expecting the unexpected because you never know what can happen. Sometimes when you always put yourself in a box, oh, this ain't gonna happen, that ain't gonna happen. Open yourself up to the unexpected. Who knows what's gonna happen? And just be thankful and have gratitude. I'm done with what I got to say about this. Dave, my hat is off to you. Congratulations. Congratulations to all the people who do have kidneys for over decades. And he's a half a century guy, man. That's remarkable. So my hat's off to you, Dave.
definitely big time. My head is off as well. We appreciate you if you was watching today, watching replay. Please comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Have a blessed one.